Welcome friends, my name is Kevin Miller and welcome to the West Fork channel. My wife Sarah and I moved to the Okanogan Highlands back in 2016. This will be our 10th winter living up here in the Highlands, running our little broom shop and living our version of sustainable living. So I put this video together so you could see what it's really like living this quiet life far from civilization on an old homestead. Enjoy the video. Sarah and I started American Broom Shop in the spring of 2012. We called it a broom shop, but at first we were just learning the craft in our garage and trying to peddle a few brooms on the weekends. Always dreaming of having a real broom shop on a little homestead somewhere, far from the busy neighborhood we were living in. We worked nights for a few years, trying to get better, me building the brooms and Sarah detailing each one and finishing the handles. Then in the summer of 2016, we found this little log cabin with 14 acres of land for sale way out in the Okanogan Highlands. Built in the early 1980s and tucked secretly away in a little box canyon. If you've never heard of the Okanogan Highlands, it's an elevated plateau of mountains stretching from north central Washington up into British Columbia, Canada. Winters are long, freezing cold, and most folks that move there don't stay very long. But we'd fallen in love with this place, and before we realized what we were getting into, we packed and hauled all of our stuff over 3 mountain passes, and it was a little too late to change our minds now. There was a small barn made from rough sawn lumber on the place that with a little remodeling would be perfect for the new broom shop. We had zero money coming in and really needed to get started ASAP. As soon as the first delivery hit the ground, we started pounding nails and boards. We bought insulation for the walls and loft, enough for 35 below, according to the lumber yard guy. According to him, if we kept the fire stoked, we'd be okay. We decided to fire up the chainsaw and postpone the barn remodel. We wanted to have about 10 cords of firewood, 7 for the cabin, and 3 cords for heating the shop. There were a few dead trees on the property, and National Forest land wasn't too far away. We cut a lot of lodgepole, pine, Douglas fir, and larch that first season, and most of it was already dry. We both loved being out in the forest cutting wood. There's a satisfying feeling of freedom that comes with doing things yourself and heating with firewood. In my opinion, it's the ultimate. Still, there are only 2 seasons when you live in the mountains, winter and getting ready for winter, and it was definitely time to start getting ready. Everything was happening so fast. We hadn't quite finished our fall chores and the temperature took a dive. Our first winter on the homestead was pretty rough. The cold snaps lasted for weeks and the snow kept piling up. It was tough for the wildlife too. Hungry deer climbed up on the porch and peeked through the windows begging for snacks. And one morning there were 24 whitetails huddled by our cabin where the smoke from our wood stove would protect them from the freezing cold. A good friend had gifted us this awesome wood stove, which turned out to be the heartbeat of our new broom shop. With our stash of dry firewood, it stayed plenty warm inside, and we were already cranking out a few brooms and getting some nice orders. Right before the first snows hit, we built a shipping shack from scrap lumber, and the mail lady would stop and check for outgoing packages every weekday. We knew this was no way to get rich, but if a guy can live 26 miles from the nearest small town and make enough money to keep beans on the table, well, in this country, he's doing pretty good. One thing I did learn in those first few months, cabin fever is a real thing. being cabin bound for long periods of time, you feel like a caged animal after a while. And the best cure for that is getting out every time you get a break in the weather. We took some wonderful day trips that really picked up our spirits and kept us going. If we weren't out stomping, we worked outdoor projects when the weather was right. Days are really short here in the winter, and you just have to get out and see the sun and the sky. That's the cure that seems to work for cabin fever. I'll never forget our first spring thaw. That winter hung on like until mid-March. We were so excited when the creek finally got its trickle back and the birds began to chirp again. Most of our property is woods and rocky outcroppings, which is great for wildlife, but there are only a few level spots with deep enough soil for growing produce. We built two 40 by 50 garden spots and a smaller raised bed garden for growing greens and herbs. The deer are everywhere and eat everything, so if you don't fence things in, it'll be gone by morning. So we did a lot of fencing and had things planted and ready to go by the first part of June. And then by July, we already had more fresh produce than we knew what to do with. We can have a killing frost any time here in the summer, but that first growing season, we had perfect gardening weather. We did a lot of canning, freezing, digging, putting everything away for winter. And there's something special about growing your own food. Everything always tastes better, and even though you have to scratch your food out of the soil, you end up with this immense feeling of gratitude. It's hard to describe. For me, it just doesn't feel the same way at the grocery store. Right about the time of the great toilet paper shortage, we decided to invest in a small flock of laying chickens, barred rocks, New Hampshire Reds, and some cool blue-laced Wyandottes. We converted an old tool shed into a pretty snazzy chicken coop and constructed some bent rail outdoor chicken runs on the front and back so the chickens could enjoy the outdoors without getting swiped by the coyotes. It took about 20 weeks before we saw our first dozen eggs, but it was sure worth the wait. We have kept the vegetable gardens going for 9 seasons in a row now. Some years are better than others, but we always get enough food for the pantry. We use a lot of straw in the chicken coop that eventually gets composted and used to fortify the soil. You have to give back to the soil or it'll just turn to dust and your crops won't be as flavorful or nutritious. But for us, the chicken compost works great. After a few years of growing gardens, it all just becomes a lifestyle. We've considered quitting because it's a lot of hard work and takes up a lot of your time. But every spring we get the tools back out and break ground. By now, I guess we just don't know any other way. We've had Tig, our yellow lab, since she was 10 weeks old, almost as long as we've been here on the homestead. I can't imagine living out here without a good dog. She's a great trail companion and always warns us if there's a dangerous predator nearby. She's evicted several problem bears and one huge mountain lion that was just a few yards from the cabin. She's also an excellent grouse dog, So if we keep her nose to the wind and the birds are there, she'll usually flush out some good ones for supper.
Tig smelled it. We could tell that she was on one, and we just came over here and she started working the trees in here, and out pops this nice big guy. What a blessing.
We usually harvest enough wild game every fall to keep us supplied with meat. We like to hunt the higher mountains, but sometimes game just comes walking right by our cabin door. There are bear, white-tailed deer, mule deer, moose, wild turkeys, 3 types of grouse. We process all of our own game meat right here on the homestead, abiding by all of the local hunting regulations, and of course, we give sincere thanks for every single animal we harvest. My grandpa got me hooked on fishing when I was just a kid. I remember skipping church with him when the salmon were running in the river. Grandpa went fishing several times a week and hardly ever had a bad day. Life was more carefree back then, probably because of the fishing trips. Anyway, I'd like to slow down some and do more fishing like my grandpa did. Sarah loves to fish too, and we can always put the food to use. So fishing, it fits right into our homestead life. Anymore, we just try to take things day by day. Try not to worry about small stuff and try to enjoy every experience as life unfolds. Homestead living should have an unhurried pace like that, and we want to completely embrace the lifestyle. This will be our 10th winter here on the West Fork, and rumors say it might be a cold one. That's what we've been working toward all year, getting ready for winter. We have 10 cords of firewood split and stacked, our pantry is stocked, and there's a glow of a nice warming fire in the wood stove. We are ready.